Let's get now to Boston. Apparently there's been an explosion at the Boston Marathon.
People are hurt. They've stopped the Boston Marathon.
My immediate reaction was to...
The 117th Boston Marathon took place on Patriots' Day, April 15, 2013. At 2:49 p.m. local time, 2 bombs detonated near the finish line on Boylston Street in Copley Square, approximately 210 yards apart. The first explosion occurred outside Marathon Sports at 673 Boylston Street, followed 14 seconds later by the second blast, 1 block west, at 755 Boylston Street. At the time of the first explosion, the race clock showed 4 hours and 9 minutes since the Wave 3 start. The explosions happened nearly 3 hours after the winning runner had crossed the finish line, but over 5,700 runners were still on the course. Windows in nearby buildings shattered, though structural damage was minimal. Despite the chaos, runners continued to cross the finish line until 2:57 p.m. On April 18, 2013, the FBI released images of 2 suspects, later identified as Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. That evening, the brothers killed MIT police officer Sean Collier and carjacked a vehicle. A shootout with police in Watertown left 2 officers severely injured. One, Dennis Simmons, later died from his injuries. Tamerlan was shot several times during the confrontation and was run over by his brother Dzhokhar as he escaped in the stolen car. Tamerlan died shortly after. A massive manhunt ensued, involving thousands of law enforcement officers searching a 20-block area of Watertown. Residents were instructed to stay indoors, and public transportation, businesses and public spaces were closed. Dzhokhar was found on the evening of April 19th, hiding in a boat in a Watertown resident's backyard. He was wounded in the ensuing standoff with police and was taken into custody. During questioning, Dzhokhar stated that he and his brother were motivated by the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, had self-radicalized, and were not affiliated with any external terrorist groups. He claimed to have followed his brother's lead and said they had learned to build bombs from an online Al-Qaeda publication. The brothers had also planned to target Times Square in New York City. 3 civilians were killed, and 264 others were injured in the explosions. Rescue workers, already present for the marathon, provided immediate aid, while additional emergency personnel arrived from surrounding areas. Boston police diverted runners to Boston Common and Kenmore Square, evacuated nearby buildings, and established a 15-block crime scene around the blast site, later reducing it to 12 blocks. The public was advised to stay off the streets. Suspicious abandoned bags and packages led to several false bomb reports, and an unrelated electrical fire at the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library initially caused alarm. Boston's airspace was restricted, flights from Logan International Airport were halted, and some local transit services were suspended. The Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency encouraged the use of text messaging over phone calls due to network congestion. The American Red Cross and Google Person Finder provided resources for concerned families and friends. Hotels near the blast site were closed, leaving some visitors without accommodations. Many Boston residents opened their homes to those in need. Tamerlan Tsarnaev was born in 1986 in the Kalmyk Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic, and Dzhokhar in 1993 in Kyrgyzstan. Their family, half Chechen and half Avar, immigrated to the United States in 2002, settling in Cambridge, Massachusetts after seeking asylum. Tamerlan attended Bunker Hill Community College before pursuing a career in boxing, aspiring to compete for the U.S. He married Catherine Russell in 2010 and became more religious after 2009, following a radical interpretation of Islam. Dzhokhar was a student at the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, majoring in marine biology, and became a U.S. citizen in 2012. The FBI had previously been alerted by Russian authorities about Tamerlan's potential radicalization, but no evidence of terrorist activity was found at the time. Tamerlan was later linked to a 2011 triple homicide in Waltham, Massachusetts, where 3 men, including his friend Brendan Mess, were brutally murdered. The case was reopened after the Marathon bombing, with strong evidence implicating Tamerlan. Some believe the brothers' radicalization stemmed from their faith, influenced either in the US or during Tamerlan's 2012 trip to Dagestan. Their mother, Zubaidat, has also been accused of extremist views that may have contributed to their behavior. Both Tamerlan and Zubaidat were placed on a terrorism watch list about 18 months before the bombing. The Federal Bureau of Investigation led the investigation into the Boston Marathon bombing, with assistance from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, the Central Intelligence Agency, the National Counter-Terrorism Center, and the Drug Enforcement Administration. Early speculation suggested North Korea might be involved, but U.S. officials stated there was no intelligence to support this. Representative Peter King, a member of the House Intelligence Committee, confirmed that recent briefings had not indicated any threats of this nature. Evidence recovered from the blast sites included metal fragments, nails, ball bearings, black nylon backpack pieces, and parts of an electronic circuit board and wiring. A pressure cooker lid was also found on a nearby rooftop. Authorities identified the explosive devices as pressure cooker bombs built by the suspects using instructions from Inspire, an online magazine published by Al-Qaeda affiliates. It was later reported that Tamerlan Tsarnaev had purchased fireworks in New Hampshire to obtain explosive material. Some U.S. lawmakers, including Senators Kelly Ayotte, Saxby Chambliss, Lindsey Graham, and John McCain, as well as Representative Peter T. King, suggested that Dzhokhar Tsarnaev should be tried as an unlawful enemy combatant, potentially denying him legal counsel. Legal experts, including Alan Dershowitz, argued that this would be illegal and could undermine the prosecution. The government decided to try Dzhokhar in federal criminal court instead. Dzhokhar was interrogated for 16 hours, but stopped cooperating after Judge Marianne Bowler read him a Miranda warning on April 22. Before that, investigators had invoked the public safety exception to the Miranda rule, leading to questions about whether his earlier statements could be used in court. During questioning, Dzhokhar admitted he and his brother were motivated by extremist beliefs, but denied any connection to known terrorist groups. He said they had planned additional attacks, including a 4th of July bombing during the Boston Pops fireworks spectacular, but opted for pressure cooker bombs due to faster preparation. Fox News reported the marathon was chosen as a target of opportunity. Dzhokhar justified the bombings as retaliation for U.S. military actions in Iraq and Afghanistan, writing in a note inside the boat where he was found that the victims of the attack were collateral damage, comparable to innocent victims of U.S. wars abroad. This note was used as evidence during his trial. Some analysts suggest the brothers were also influenced by political struggles in the Caucasus region and Tamerlan's struggles to integrate into American society. Dzhokhar identified Tamerlan as the driving force behind the attack and said he had been recruited by his brother shortly before the bombing. There is speculation, supported by Dzhokhar's defense attorney, that the FBI may have tried to recruit Tamerlan as an informant. Trial and sentencing jury selection for Dzhokhar's trial began on January 5, 2015, and concluded on March 3, with a jury of 8 men and 10 women, including 6 alternates. The trial started on March 4, with prosecutor William Weinreb portraying Dzhokhar as a soldier in a holy war, equally complicit with his brother. Defense attorney Judy Clark acknowledged Dzhokhar's involvement but emphasized his subordinate role to Tamerlan. Over the next few weeks, prosecutors called more than 90 witnesses, including bombing survivors who detailed their injuries. Both sides rested their cases by the end of March. On April 8, Dzhokhar was found guilty on all 30 charges. The sentencing phase began on April 21, and by May 15, the jury recommended the death penalty. Dzhokhar was convicted on 30 charges, including the use of a weapon of mass destruction, and was initially sentenced to death. However, the sentence was vacated by the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit before being reinstated by the Supreme Court in United States against Tsarnaev. He was formally sentenced to death on June 24 after apologizing to the victims. In 2018, his lawyers appealed, arguing that the trial's location in Boston deprived him of a fair hearing. On July 30, 2020, the United States Court of Appeals for the First Circuit overturned his death sentence, citing errors in jury selection and the refusal to move the trial to a less affected city. The court also vacated 3 of his 30 convictions and ordered a new penalty phase trial, though the remaining convictions ensured multiple life sentences. The government appealed this ruling to the Supreme Court, which reinstated Dzhokhar's death sentence on March 4, 2022. In 2024, Dzhokhar remains incarcerated at ADX Florence Penitentiary in Colorado. He awaits his death sentence to be carried out while being on death row, although his execution date has not been specified. I urge you guys to like and subscribe to my channel, as I will bring more documentaries and cases soon.